Welcome to Thieves' Cant, a tabletop gaming podcast with your hosts, Jeremy Shane and Chris White.
Welcome back and welcome in. It is Thieves' Cant, Saturday, April 12th. Hope you're doing all right. Jeremy Shane.
Chris White.
Back with you once again. Chris, did you have a good week?
I did. I had a great week. It didn't rain that much, so I'm pretty happy.
Right. Did you do any gaming this week?
I did not. It's been all work and no play.
It has been a busy work season, that's for sure.
I am a dull boy right now.
Yeah, I've played a little Magic the Gathering on the phone, but I've not been around a table for a game in too long. But we've got a session coming up next weekend, I think.
I think we do.
All right. So
big plans, big changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Looking forward to that. Coming up in today's show, get ready for some lonely fun in our crowdfunding spotlight. I'm a fan of lonely fun.
I know you are.
Yeah. The Lowdown returns in our main segment. It's all about that campaign kickoff. But first, let's get into the news. Well, on the heels of Chris Perkins' retirement from Dungeons & Dragons, Screen Rant initially had the report Jeremy Crawford is following suit. The other head of Demogorgon?
Yeah, you could say that, I guess. Yeah.
This was another surprise for a lot of folks, I think. For others, maybe not so much.
A big change. They were the face.
Right.
Face is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially for the last decade.
Yeah.
At least.
Absolutely. Yeah, and after Mike Merle's left.
Right.
So how many D&D employees can you name now offhand?
Right.
These were the ones.
Yeah, your core design and development team, at least on the leadership level, for a good deal of 4th edition, for certainly all of 5th edition's run. And now one era ends and a new era begins with a lot of question marks right now, as there always are anytime there's a turnover in leadership. That's not exclusive to this situation. Mm-hmm. The VP of franchise there at D&D, VP of franchise and product, Jess Lanzillo, she spoke with Screen Rant, says that this was something the company had prepared for, saying that the pair, quote, wanted to make sure that the core rule books were really successful, that they were setting up all of the future leads of D&D for success, and then they had planned to head out the door, and that's what's happened.
So they're saying this has been in the works for some time, not just 2 weeks' notice.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. Right. So with that, we're talking about the uncertainty of the future, but one thing that we do know is that Greg Bilsland has been named D&D's executive producer. Greg is somebody who's got a pretty good history with D&D. He worked there for 9 years previously. He was a senior producer of 5th edition. He's got his name on lots of good 4th edition stuff as well. Monster Manual 3, Vorukoth, which was that cool, tiefling city, like this doomed tiefling city.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was like a city primer of sorts that they put out. So Greg says, I started my career at Wizards. Returning to work on D&D is a homecoming. So that much, at least we know. Greg Bilsland, executive producer.
Well, hopefully he'll make the adjustment quickly and they can get some good work done.
He's got a lot of experience on that 4th edition level with a lot of community play, like the Lair Assault, Vault of the Dracolich as well. It'd be interesting to see if maybe there's a focus on new, creative community content for organized play. We'll see what direction that goes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting times, maybe some big changes at Wizards.
All right, moving on. A few weeks back, we mentioned a new Platinum edition of the world's largest dungeon. Coming for 5e, it'll be on Backer Kit starting May 13th. Well, it's on there now. It's just collecting followers. It'll launch May 13th, but it's got over 8,500 followers as of today, with almost a full month left before launch. So Well, let me just say, I know bangers.
Yeah? Your banger meter's triggered, huh?
The banger meter is maxing out.
All right.
Yeah. So I bring this up again because they are holding a Secret Doors contest over at World's Largest Dungeon. The contest is inviting amateur writers to create encounters that are found behind secret doors in the World's Largest Dungeon.
Well, that sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a neat idea.
Yeah.
So this is actually going to be like in print, like part of it, like the successful entries?
Well, let's get into that.
Okay.
All right. So if you're interested in participating, it is open only to amateur writers. You can't be published anywhere. So no full-time RPG pros. Your submission can be up to 4,700 words. It should include a map. They want an image with it and a video. I'm not sure on the particulars of the image and the video. You can do your homework on that if you're curious. Entries do need to be 5e compatible. They have strictly forbidden any AI content, so it's got to be 100% human-made. This contest is going to open April 13th. That is tomorrow here in our time, and it'll run until July 2nd. So they're giving you some time to think, get those creative juices flowing, and put your best foot forward. After July 2nd, then, fan voting is going to open. So they're letting the fans vote on submissions. Let's talk prizes. You like prizes?
I do like prizes. It's hard to bribe all the fans. Like, this would be a lot better if it was like 3 judges. I think I'd have a shot.
Less to worry about.
Yeah.
There is a $500 minimum total prize pool. That is going to go up. Every fan vote adds $1, with a maximum 10 votes per person.
You have to pay $1 to vote?
Correct. It says funded by $1 fan votes. So unless I'm misinterpreting that.
Let's make sure the federal government doesn't find out about any of this. They're going to latch onto this really fast.
Yeah. So 7 winners are going to get 5% of the purse, which at its base is $25. But again, that'll go up. 1 runner-up is going to get 10% of the cut, starting at $50, and 1 grand prize winner is going to get half of the pool. It comes out to about 5 cents a word for first place, a penny a word for second, and a half a cent a word for the other winners. So
that is really precise.
On a per word basis, it's not a great rate, but keep in mind, this is a contest. All submissions become sole property of the publisher, even those that do not win. So if you submit it, you are giving up all of your rights to your creation. You just got to know that going in. All right, that's there in the fine print. And the publisher can then use or monetize entries without compensation.
So looking at this breakdown, if I compare this to, say, giving blood for profit, what's the best use of my time? Is it writing this submission or laying on the table? Or what if you did both? What if you wrote your submission while you were giving blood? That's just pure profit. Give up a kidney or something.
So what do you think of contests where submission equals a full transfer of rights, even if you don't win?
I mean, I feel like, well, I guess it depends. I wouldn't put my great life's work out there, I guess, if I had the best idea. But I don't know the whole thing. Like, I get like a grand prize, maybe like a second prize, but I think a lot of people would just do this for fun.
Sure.
To me, if it's in print, that's a prize right there,
Again, this is closed to professional writers. So,
right.
So for someone who's never been published, I think you're exactly right. Seeing your name in print with your work, like on a professionally produced product, that's a feather in your cap. And if you're serious about maybe developing your portfolio in this field and getting more work in the future, I mean, what a great start for you in terms of getting your name out there, because it is a flooded industry. Does the fan vote rub you the wrong way at all? I mean, I know they cap the votes at 10, but do we risk turning this into a popularity contest?
Well, I mean, I guess in a sense, every vote is a popularity contest.
Well, that's true.
But
what I said was really stupid.
No,
wasn't
it was.
No.
It was. I mean, I had to think about it for a minute.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if people want to, drop $10 on this, I guess it's funding the prizes.
Yeah.
So it's not really interfering with the the crowdfunding itself or anything.
And I mean, and just keep in mind, I mean, it's the world's largest dungeon. So we are only making it even larger.
If you're making the world's largest dungeon, content is at a premium. I mean,
Right.
You need everything you can stuff into this thing. So it would be interesting. It sets a tone, doesn't it? Because if the people just voted for the absolute silliest, like nonsensical entries, that could really change the tone of the dungeon,
Right.
or like it's something really weird or fetishy or something, like that could change things quite a bit.
Yeah.
So,
What a house of horrors we are constructing here.
Yeah.
You never know what's behind the next door.
I kind of want to go vote now. I got $10. I think I'm all in.
Hey, quickly before we wrap up the news, one more D&D side note. I don't know if you saw any of the previews coming out for the upcoming Dragon Delve book, but they've announced that it's going to have 3 solo adventures. Dragon Delve, by the way, coming out from Dungeons and Dragons. It's another anthology adventure set. So 10 adventures, each with a dragon theme. And now they say 3 of these will be solo adventures, meaning they're intended for one DM, one player. In an interview with InWorld, James Wyatt says that the solo guidelines are, quote, pretty straightforward. He says there's a little supernatural gift, the boon of the lone hero or something like that gives you a significant buffer or temporary hit points so that you can survive attacks. He goes on to say that at the end of every long rest, you get heroic inspiration. Well, that's good because, your DM's never giving it to you. So
Right.
You got to get inspiration somehow. I like this approach to building in mechanics that are going to help a single adventurer more than I like what they've done in the past. Was it the Essentials kit that had guidelines for some solo play using sidekick characters?
Oh, yeah. I do recall that now.
And whenever I'm thinking solo play, one character with a DM, one player with a DM, that's what I want. I want to run my character. I want to run my PC in this adventure. I don't. It's not a solo adventure if I've got to manage an NPC alongside me.
Right.
So I prefer these mechanics that say, no, let's put the focus on the PC. What can we do to make this PC capable of running through an adventure solo rather than trying to simulate a party run by one player?
Right. Right. Yeah. You don't want to run a party. You want to. I feel this way in every RPG on a computer, though. It's like, I want to play my guy.
Right.
I want the computer run the NPCs, especially their inventory.
Oh, the inventory.
Oh, I hate it. But anyway, do you like this format where they kind of mushed the solo and the other adventures together? Or would you rather see them split up into like a book focused on solo play or and then another for party?
Here's what I would ultimately like. And I think that they've probably done this for the 3 that are in this book, the 3 solo adventures. They probably have a note in there saying, hey, this is intended for one player and one DM, but it can easily be expanded for a full party. Here's how.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I would like is for, and no hyperbole here, so maybe this is a hot take. I would like all D&D content to be designed exactly that way, with one player in mind. Because forming a D&D group is one of the biggest obstacles to playing D&D. Finding enough people and then finding the time where all of those people's schedules align. So why not design material focused towards that play with an eye towards easily expanding it for a full party?
A style where, designed for single player, but like immediately right there, easy to access way to up the power.
Right.
For a group of 3 to 4 players, change this.
Yeah.
That would be pretty nice.
Now, in order to do that, we're going to have a simpler way, I think, of scaling encounters on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there are tons of, I'm not discounting the tons and tons of third-party content out there that have come up with different ways to mess with encounter math, come up with encounters on the fly. No, I'm speaking directly to the brand Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got to make this simpler for DMs to scale. Can we please just go back to the 4th edition philosophy of, all right, I've got a level 1 party. It seems appropriate that they would be matched up with level 1 monsters.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want it to be more challenging, I'm going to give them a level 2 monster. Challenge rating, I just can't.
I think 5e was a step, maybe 2 steps back from what 4e offered as far as the monster manual goes. I know 4e is controversial, but their monster manual and their encounters were pretty tight. They had my banger meter activated.
It was pegged.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed it was.
Yeah, especially Monster Manual 3, by the time they, previously mentioned there that Greg Bilsland's name was on there. By the time they got to that iteration, they had figured out the math for 4E as best they could, I think. From Monster Manual 3 on into the Essentials line, those monsters, they sang.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so you can have some lonely fun there in Dragon Delve, and you can have some lonely fun in today's crowdfunding segment. All right, today we are looking at Solo Borg from The Soloist. Doesn't that just sound fun? Solo Borg.
It does.
You can play Mork Borg on your own. So Mork Borg, again, this is from Free League, so you know it's awesome. Mork Borg is kind of this doomed dark fantasy world, old school with a heavy metal edge. And so now the Soloist is putting together Solo Borg. It's on Kickstarter with about 12 days left to fund. Your guide to playing Mork Borg DM-less. This is truly solo.
This is interesting. I'm always interested by these lonely fun, as you like to refer to it. But also, I'm like you. I struggle with motivation.
Right.
And things like this. So
right. Without that other player to feed off of and to bounce ideas off of. Yeah, how do you build up that momentum? Well, hopefully the 80-ish pages of Solo Borg help you with that. Compatible with the base game, Mork Borg, and third-party content, but they say that you don't need any other content to play. So even if you don't own Mork Borg, you can still play Solo Borg. $22 gets you in at the PDF level, but there is a $32 spiral bound level. I really like the idea of spiral bound. I know they're not the most attractive on the bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because I do enjoy looking at all the spines of my books. Beautiful, beautiful books. But man, at the table, spiral bound, guaranteed to lie flat. You can't beat that. Yep. So for utility, I think that might be the one to get.
I like that option.
Yeah, there's a $44 hardback option, and then options all the way up to the $125 solo hard bundle. Are you ready to solo hard?
That's the only way I solo.
Again, that is on Kickstarter for another 12 days or so. Solo Borg from The Soloist. This one looks fun, especially if you are a solo gamer or you're solo curious. Check it out. And with that, we are ready to move on into our main segment. Once again, we have plumbed the back alleys and all the side streets, the smoke-filled taverns. We have tapped into the tabletop RPG community for answers. It's another edition of The Lowdown.
The Lowdown.
We are talking campaign kickoffs. What is your favorite kickoff to a campaign? What's the best way that you've started one as a GM, or what's the most fun you've had as a player at the start of a campaign? What's impressed you that another GM has done? Chris, from your personal history, do you have any favorite moments?
There's a sort of a joke that we have always referenced from an old game that I don't even know who was running it. I don't know who was playing. But what was reported back was that the campaign started with, you're in a cave, you see rocks, what do you do? And I've always...
Wait, you're in a cave, you see rocks, what do you do?
What do you do? If that's not the best start to the campaign, I don't know what is.
One of my favorite campaign kickoffs as a GM, and I don't know what it was like to be a player, so maybe you can speak to this because you were in this campaign, Chris. It was a 4E campaign. I was running, what was the name of the adventure in the Essentials? Was it the Essentials DM's kit, I think? The Reavers of Harkenwold.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, so you're in the Nintir Vale, and you've got the Iron Circle, mercenary company from the south. They are invading. And I really wanted to showcase like how bad these guys were and really kind of let the players get a feel for just how nasty the bad guys were without their PCs being involved. So I kind of set up a prelude where I made some pre-gen characters like a farm family and just randomly distributed those. And we kicked off the game at the farm at night, and the bad guys arrived.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as a player because it did. It introduced the enemy faction, such as it is. But also, I think, because there were survivors, they became NPCs right, in the adventure.
Yeah, we weren't done with them. Later on, they showed back up.
Yeah, it kind of was interesting from a narrative perspective. Normally you just see the story from the side of the heroes, but this was instead from the perspective of those hapless villagers that are under attack. I thought it was a really fun way, actually, to start up a campaign.
Yeah, I just kind of want to show the plight of the small folk.
Yeah,
and really kind of give you impetus and drive for saving these people.
And like any good intro, it set the stage. So when the players do arrive, this world already feels somewhat fleshed out.
Do you have any personal stories before we share some listener stories?
I don't. This is good content. It's just it seems like it's so often the typical, you're all in a bar and you're each in one of the four corners of the building and staring ominously at the others distrustfully while you, and then
the DM is just thinking, oh, for the love, just talk.
Yeah. And then it's this struggle to try to get, how am I going to put these odd personalities together?
Right.
It's the orc barbarian's in one corner and the paladin of light is in the other corner. And, we can't come eye to eye. It's like, really? Like, help me out a little,
Which is why I think a thoughtful campaign start is key.
Yeah.
Is key. So let's hop on over to the ttrpg subreddits where we have collected some more bangers. Chris, you want to get us started there?
Absolutely. Fried Egg Sando says, PCs are snowed in at a trading post during a blizzard along with a bunch of other NPCs.
I already like it.
When a barbarian NPC is brutally murdered by something that ate its way out of his chest and subsequently escapes outside. So, that's kind of like the Alien movie, right?
Yeah.
Like the chest.
Unless
thing.
It's like a treasure chest, like a Foot Locker.
Well, that's a that's a mimic.
I'm just trying to save this NPC, but I don't think I can.
I think he's cooked.
Yeah.
The characters have a limited amount of time to figure out what is going on before the creature matures to adulthood. If that happens, they're toast. In the meantime, the creature stalks the inhabitants of the trading post and slowly whittles them down one by one. So there were lots of the usual elements you might find in a horror movie, including but not limited to suspense. I like it. So this really just segues right into a horror adventure.
I really like that. Like from the jump, you have limited the space in which the PCs can explore. I think that's important at the beginning of a campaign. Mm-hmm. You're not putting them on rails. You're fencing them in somewhat and saying you can explore all of this space and the story is going to happen in this space. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need parameters. And visible parameters like this, I mean, you're snowed in at the trading post. That's where this scenario has happened. It's tight. It's focused. I think that's that drives play.
Yeah, this sounds fun. I love the Blizzard. It reminds me of The Thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, right?
So they're pulling in a lot of horror elements. I am curious how they knew that the clock was ticking for this creature becoming mature. So
maybe the DM is sprinkling in, like they get glimpses of it, and it's it's changing rapidly, or maybe they've got small skirmishes with it along the way, and it keeps slipping away, or who knows?
I like it. I really like it.
Yeah, that's a quality start. I would play in that. I'd be hooked from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Fried Egg Sando. We'll move on. The Real Tina Sky says, PCs are going about their normal day, giving them a chance to introduce themselves, do a little RP background. As each of them walks through an ordinary door, a glowing green light washes over them, and they find themselves transported to a fog-shrouded shore where they meet for the first time. Smoke from a few small buildings rises in the distance. Sounds like Adventure Calls.
So basically, everybody gets teleported to a unfamiliar land. Is that what we're seeing?
And they went on the Dungeons and Dragons ride.
They did. Yeah, I mean, well, that'll bring you together. I mean, it seems like a very Planescape start to a campaign.
Right. This is like the kick 'em in the pool approach.
Yeah.
Like kicking you into the pool, and what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're in a cave. There are rocks.
What do you do?
What do you do?
I like it, though. I mean, the idea of the PCs finding themselves in a situation where it's alien, they don't know exactly what's happening, and so in that situation, you're looking for friends. Like, hey, I don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on. We have motivation to work together instantly.
Yeah.
Okay. Corn Nublet says...
Corn Nublet, I just have to say, you sound delicious.
Yes. This first sentence, God's teeth for Delta Green.
That's a scenario, I'm assuming.
Okay. I did not know that, so that's interesting. It says, one poor bastard is given details of children's abuse at a group home and is directed to recruit a group of friendlies to remove the abusers with extreme prejudice. Nothing is ever explicitly described, but it just feels so brutalizing and dehumanizing that it's hard to get through.
Well, I know I want to play. Please brutalize and dehumanize me.
This is the game for when you're feeling down.
I'm curious about Delta Green. I have my limited Call of Cthulhu experience. I've always wanted to play Delta Green.
So this is a Call of Cthulhu?
It's Call of Cthulhu adjacent.
Okay.
Delta Green it's often described as kind of like X-Files meets Cthulhu.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, this sounds pretty gritty. This sounds dark.
Yeah. Taking out some child abusers. That sounds pretty cool.
That's always a plus.
Yeah. But I'd have to know more. So it sounds like in this situation, though, they're all already on a team. And this kind of goes back to that, again, session 0. We always talk about it. But, maybe just beforehand be like, hey, you guys already know each other. Fill in the blanks, how you met.
Right.
That's a great thing to do on a session 0. But then when we get to the first real session, we're ready to play. And these characters are linked together already.
So Corn Nublet, thanks for the story. Medical Breakfast 98 says... the campaign that I had that lasted the longest started when a funeral for a local beloved merchant concluded. I had all the local power players give a speech so they could be introduced in a kind of natural way, and all the PCs knew the merchant, so they just kind of mingled and talked after the service. I think this is a good idea if you handle it pretty quickly as a GM. As a player, I dread the thought of listening to a GM eulogize a deceased NPC like 6-7 times over.
Yeah.
With a different NPC. I think this has got to be handled pretty quickly. It says, then the mayor approached one of the party members, about retrieving a last shipment he was supposed to deliver, but couldn't because he's dead. So this is a classic case of everybody knows the dead NPC. That's our connection. Mm-hmm. And now that's our connection with the other NPCs as well, who can give us the plot hook.
Yeah. All the elements are here to bring the group together.
Perhaps my favorite dead NPC of all time, one Jackson Elias.
Oh, Jackson Elias.
Yeah. From Masks of Nyarlathotep.
That NPC united the party and kept them united throughout. He became a drive and a motivation for the group. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I especially love what they did with the 7th edition version of Masks of Nyarlathotep. They created the new Peru chapter, which serves as a prologue of sorts, where you get to interact with Jackson years before the campaign proper begins. So try to avoid any real spoilers there. But as far as campaign setups go, man, it's hard to beat Masks.
You know what's great about that? And I had not considered until you brought that up, but that prelude in Peru sets that NPC up, sets Jackson Elias up as like an old adventuring companion. And so when you get into the main adventure, which takes place, 10 years later or something like that?
I think it's about 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah. It's like when you get a call from him, it's like, that's my boy. We were hunting the fat-sucking vampires down in Peru together, right? And so, yeah, it does. That really, I think, is what built that NPC. I think if you'd done that cold with that, it wouldn't have been nearly as effective.
Right.
So,
yeah,
that's really interesting.
Actually having a real history with that NPC.
Yeah.
All right, Medical Breakfast 98, thank you.
Okay, I see now why you set this up the way you did. Specifically, so I would have to say this name.
I don't know how you pronounce this one.
Cot Snud.
We can go with that.
Cot Snud? I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I butchered your name. But he says they meet in a tavern, but it's the burned out wreckage of a tavern, and everyone was blackout drunk. So the first quest is to piece together what happened the night before and how things got out of hand.
This is awesome. I love the twist on the classic you meet in a tavern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the tavern is like obviously been on fire. I mean, this thing is trashed and everybody's unconscious. So what happened?
It's like The Hangover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's another really good take on the you meet in a tavern, a twist on that. The In-World's War of the Burning Sky campaign. No real spoilers here. Essentially, the city is under siege. The opening scene is this clandestine meeting in a closed tavern that sees the characters tasked with smuggling secret information out of the city. I think if you want to still have the characters meet in a tavern because it's the classic trope, but put a twist on it, I think that's cool.
Yeah. Also, there's still alienation, though. Yeah, there's people all around, but they're all unconscious, save for the group, right? This group of individuals. And so they're automatically going to be drawn to each other because they're the only ones who are conscious. Yeah. So I guess it's like a late night at Walmart.
Thank you, Kikatsnud. Atomic Italian says, I woke all of my PCs up in a locked magical shipping container once before they were recruited for a heist in Sigil. Their first task was breaking out of the container from the inside to give their benefactor a show of their problem-solving skills. First of all, I love the name Atomic Italian. Secondly, I love the phrase magical shipping container. Can you live in those? And anything in Sigil. Magical shipping container house. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So this looks great. I like it. I mean, again, do the PCs know each other before this, or they wake up with a bunch of strangers? It's like a safe room with people you don't know. Yeah. I'd say in this case, it's one of those where it doesn't really matter if the PCs have that initial connection or not. You're locked in this container together. You've got to find your way out. That sounds fun. Yeah. Like, hey, what can you do? Immediately, you're in problem-solving mode, trying to figure out how to get out of this thing. I like it. Yeah. A great way to start a campaign is to throw the characters into a fight. opening scene is a big fight.
Yeah.
But why not they have the opening scene as a big puzzle?
Yeah.
This is the answer to that.
It sounds fun.
Very cool.
Zendrix1 says, told my players ahead of time that the campaign would be starting on board an airship. The campaign started with high-paced storm music as their ship was attacked by an overwhelming force, some kind of advisory inside a storm cloud firing.
I think that's supposed to be adversary.
Okay. I was like, a storm advisory. This is getting dangerous.
It could be advisory.
Yeah. Tornado alarms going off. Some kind of, okay, we'll say adversary, inside a storm cloud firing green flames and purple lightning at them. Well, all right. I like that. They were being shot out of the sky. I'd describe a scene, let them try to hurriedly tell me what they're doing. They eventually interrupt them with the next disaster until something knocked them all out as they crashed. So this is a very sort of scripted scenario here.
Feels like a cutscene.
Yes.
Like a video game cutscene where every once in a while you get to mash a button.
It does feel very video game. It's like, okay, now push square.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Now, I don't say that in a derogatory sense.
No.
All right, I'm on board for this. As a campaign kickoff, I'm cool with this sort of play.
Especially, yeah, I agree. Like at the beginning, I don't mind the tighter restrictions. You know, like you're in this scenario, yeah, you can do things and you can react, but, you know, no, I'm not giving you the airship, right? You know, we're going to crash and this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with working with the DM here initially, and then we hit the ground and we're running, right? We're the freedom comes back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not, and maybe that's a discussion that takes place beforehand, but I'm okay with the little tighter reins on the intro, as long as everybody is mature enough to handle that. So
cool. I have always wanted to do something with an airship, but I don't think I ever have.
We have done airships, actually.
Really?
If you remember Eric's campaign, there were a lot of airships in that.
There were, weren't there? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He did
Okay.
have airships.
Man.
So fantasy fulfilled.
Thanks for plugging that hole in my memory there.
Mark that off the bucket list.
Right. Hey, I did it after all.
Yeah.
Yay me. One more in the lowdown. It's from, now I got to struggle with this one. Cerulean. Cerulean is Fancy Blue. Our group was part of the Union Army, and day one of the campaign was July 2nd, 1863, at Gettysburg. We were told it was going to be a Victorian adventure game of sorts, so I was expecting we'd end up mustering out and getting into adventures in the Arctic or maybe a little steampunk. And then the dead began to rise up across the battlefield. We were playing a variation of Deadlands. So I guess that was the surprise that the DM threw at them. We're actually playing Deadlands.
I love it.
That's great.
I want to play in this right now.
Yeah.
I like, because I like the portion of Deadlands where it's like, well, there's some real history here.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
Also things get a little off the rails.
Sure.
So yeah, imagine a Civil War battle where all of a sudden the dead start rising. Love it. I love Deadlands anyway. I love the whole concept of it. So yeah, this just looks fun. So they're a unit in the army, essentially.
Yeah.
So they have cause to be together.
Right.
Now all of a sudden they're surrounded by, I assume, Confederate and Union zombies or something.
Right.
So, again, it's that idea of alienation, right? I mean, the party's brought together because everything else is trying to kill us, right? So now all of a sudden, okay, well, we're together. We'll learn more about each other at another point, or maybe we don't want to explore that, whatever the case. But they have motivation to stay together, to cling together, and to look out for each other. I love it.
All right. So as we kind of wrap things, what would you say the main takeaways for putting together a great campaign kickoff are? You mentioned alienation. You think that's...
When you think about a random group of strangers sitting in a bar, what motivation do they have to go out and do incredibly dangerous things together? You know, they don't know each other. And the process of getting to know each other in real life takes a long time, right? I mean, you know, if a stranger at a bar walks up to you and says, hey, you want to rob a bank? Well, you know, don't pursue that. But, maybe if you've had a few and your buddy that you've known for 13 years says, hey, you want to, I don't have a scenario.
I'm probably
that
still
gets
not
better.
going to rob the bank.
No, don't rob the bank. Okay, but if you were into bank robbing, you know what I mean. There needs to be a motivation from the get-go for these people to go out and do dangerous things, as you do in a tabletop. So alienation is good. There's nobody else around, so these are the friends I have, whether I know them or not. This is all I've got. You're setting the theme of the whole campaign, right? It's like the airship that we had in the one comment. Like, there's a lot of imagery there.
Sure.
I mean, they're saying, hey, this is the world that you're going to be in, okay? We had the one where they were snowed in, right?
Right.
Your world's going to be small. It's going to be claustrophobic, and this is what you have to deal with. So it's setting expectations to some extent. Is this going to be high action? Is this going to be a mystery? Is this going to be a horror? You're setting a lot of those things in that first moment, and maybe you're not. I mean, maybe this is just the time to bring the party together and set off on adventure. I don't know.
Yeah, it can be that simple. But I do like the idea if you're not opposed to a little more complexity.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes you're in a cave, you see rocks, and you ask yourself, "What do I do?" No, it's you want more than that. You want again. These examples are great. There are so many of these that I'm like, I just want to play right now. I just want to get in there and play with these folks and see what happens next.
Thanks to everybody who shared their feedback with us. If you've got some feedback you'd like to throw at us, a couple of ways you can do that. You can email thievescantcast@gmail.com. We're online. Check the socials at Thieves Can't Cast, on YouTube at Thieves Can't Podcast. We've got a little something special coming next week, Chris. The Easter Bunny is hopping this way.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
My sweet tooth is activated.
We're going to find out what's in your Easter basket next week. We've got our Thieves Can't Easter special.
I'm ready. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So that'll do it for Thieves Can't. Until next time, happy gaming. I'm Jeremy Shane.
I'm Chris White.
We will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Thieves Can't. Email thievescantcast@gmail.com.